Awesome. So we are really, really glad to have another leader that we're highlighting for the Soul of Service, our Black History Month series within the City of Hartford. Really just conversing with leaders, getting to know them on a more personal level. We know the profession, we know the work, but we are really so excited and happy to be able to do a deeper dive with folks here for this series. And today I have Charisse Snipes, who is the head of MHIS. Charisse, what does MHIS stand for?
Metro Hartford Innovation Services.
All right, you heard it here first. Awesome. So Charisse has been leading this division, leading our technology infrastructure for the city of Hartford. And so, Charisse, what we've been asking leaders to do is just share a little bit about themselves to kick us off. Tell us about their hometown, like their family of origin, like how did your family get to Connecticut? We would love to hear that.
Okay. So my hometown is Hartford. I was born and raised in Hartford. My family from, my paternal and maternal side, both came from the South, different areas of the South. My mother's side was the Carolinas. My father's side was down Louisiana, Mississippi. So that's where, we came from. My grandmother, um, who had about nine sisters, right? About seven of them migrated up here from the Carolinas to Hartford. A few went back. My grandmother stayed for a while. And then once um, my mother and my aunt um, got settled here, she went back, as they call it, home. So that's where everyone came from. My father's side, everyone lived in the north end of Hartford, so strong ties here.
So your father's side from Louisiana and Mississippi.
Yep.
Have you been? Have you been there? Do you spend time there?
I have not. I am the only girl. I have four brothers, two older brothers and two younger brothers. So my older brothers went. I was like a little young back then when they had family reunions. But no, I've never been to Mississippi. It's on my list though.
Awesome. But what about Louisiana?
I haven't been to Louisiana. I plan on going, but I gotta stay away from certain parts where they have alligators and all that good stuff. So.
Yes, yes, indeed. That is swamp territory. But
But New
I think
Orleans is on my list. So
awesome. So I guess we'll have you back so you can report back about your experiences in Mississippi and Louisiana. So both parents coming from the South, one side from the Carolinas, both North and South,
South Carolina.
South Carolina, and
Yep.
then Mississippi and Louisiana on the other side, and settling in
Mhm.
Hartford. Any particular reason why Hartford?
I'm not sure. So back then, right, this was like way before I was even thought about coming to this earth. I guess I would say to find work here. There was ownership of land in South Carolina particularly. But I think it was more of coming here and, getting word of mouth that there was work in the North. So families migrated here, for better opportunities.
Wow. I
Hmm.
think that that's something that we probably don't give enough thought to when we're
Hmm.
considering Black history and migration patterns
Hmm.
and the fact that Connecticut is a northern state. And so I hear a lot of folks who have ties in Alabama and the Carolinas, in Mississippi, coming this way for opportunities. And I think
Yes.
that that's something that we really should be keeping at the forefront of our minds when we're
Hmm.
interacting with, like, this is living history, right? And like migration patterns. So many of
Hmm.
the leaders that we've spoken with have been like, oh yeah, similarly, my
Hmm.
grandma had X amount of sisters. We all lived on one block. They all came up from the South together and we like kind of like
Yeah.
recreated community
Hmm.
here. I love that. I would love to be able to learn a little bit more about that. So I'm gonna put a pin in it for myself for later because maybe as other celebrations come up, we can think more about migration
Yeah.
patterns and how
Hmm.
that impacts what we see here today, even like,
Exactly.
the people, the food, the right,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the things that we're seeing.
Yes.
So speaking of Black history, Charisse,
Hmm.
How do you, well, yes, how do you think that your work is either making or contributing to Black history in the city of Hartford?
Well, I think first and foremost is my position, right? Although I'm not the first woman CIO, I am the first Black woman CIO for the city of Hartford, yes. So that comes with great responsibility, right? I got to make sure I'm always thinking that I got to get it right, right? So being the first Black woman CIO is a huge responsibility, and I think that just shows from history, women, weren't part, part of those type of leadership roles. IT has always been like a male dominant industry, so to break through those glass barriers to get to the top position um, is something that we weren't afforded years ago um, for Black people. So.
I did not know that you were the first Black woman
Mhm.
Chief Information Officer for the City of
Yes.
Hartford.
Yes.
Wow, living
Mhm.
history.
Mhm.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, how long have you worked for the city, and what initially attracted you to a position in IT, or can you give us like your career journey to getting here as well?
Okay.
A lot
So
of
I've been with
questions,
the
I
city. Yeah.
know.
I've been with the city of Hartford for about 16 years. In August, it would be my 17th year here. Being born and raised in Hartford, I think that's where my attraction came from. So um, I will go back a little bit. In school, I went to John C. Clark Elementary School. There was always one computer in the back of the class, right? But you had to finish your work before you were able to use the computer. So I've always had a um, a feel for technology. That's always, something that I wanted to do growing up. So I just stayed on that path, and as time went by, I was able to get into certain roles in IT. It wasn't easy to break into IT. I started off as a administrative assistant with the state of Connecticut, the Judicial Department for Grievance Committee. But there in the office that I was in, there was 10 attorneys. Two were male, the rest were female. So they knew my interest in IT, and they were kind of pushing me to do things to get on that path. Um, so, I started doing internships. And then finally I was able to break through, once, the people that were hiring had conversations with me, they knew that I had that experience. I've even got to the point where they was like, well, you can talk the talk, but let's see you do it, right? So I was able to do that, and it was a little insulting, right? Because if I was a male, I would have been, all in. Um, so from there, I just started, getting into roles, getting promotions, and then moving on, and then the opportunity with Hartford Public Schools, came before me. So I interviewed. Um, they offered me a role, but it wasn't a role that I was interested in. So I told them, no, thank you. But thank you for the opportunity. Then they called me back 2 weeks later saying, we really liked you. So I was like, all right, let me give this a try. It was a totally different position. So when I started here, I started off as a computer support specialist. And then within 3 to 4 years, I became the manager. And then 2 years I became the director, and then which led me to becoming the CIO. I was interim for about 6 years, the longest in history for someone to be an interim director. But then they posted for the position. There was about 30 plus male candidates, but I superseded all. So here I am today.
And we're really grateful to have you.
Thank
So,
you.
as you were going through the process to become the CIO, did you know that you were going to be making history as the first Black woman CIO for
I
the city of Hartford?
wasn't paying attention to that. I was just all in the depth of the work, right? Because once you start doing the work, you start feeling the fulfillment of helping people, right? So that's where I was in the trenches, right? But then, I started recognize people started recognizing and telling me things that I wasn't even paying attention to, right? So it was like, all right, you're right, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I am the first, right, Black female CIO. So yeah, yeah, that's a lot.
But I appreciate that you were like, listen, I just had my head down. I was doing what I was supposed to do. And then I looked up and then there it was,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
a history making position in the city of Hartford. So, wow, I can say that I knew the first Black female CIO for the city. And I think that anybody who has had the opportunity to interact with you knows you to be like a more kind of like quiet behind the scenes, laid back leader, right? And so, kudos to the people who have tapped you along the way that helped to elevate you into the role that you're in right now. I had the pleasure of serving with you around the holidays for like the toy drive, and I was like, I'm not hearing Charisse say anything. All I'm seeing is the toys going out the door.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all action, all action.
All action. It was just like, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like now you're sitting, now we can actually connect. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do know you to be just a very focused and consistent um, leader. And I think that it's a true testament that leadership looks different, right? And sometimes we think that a leader is someone who is loud or someone who is, always delegating or da da da. But there is space for different personality types to
Mhm.
emerge as leaders, particularly when you keep your head down and you put people first and you're consistent and you're open to learning.
Yeah.
Um, so just really, I'm like, I'm the first Black female CIO for the city of Hartford. That's really beautiful. So, what do you find to be most meaningful about your position in serving the city of Hartford? And it seems like you've done Hartford Public Schools and also City of Hartford. So,
Yes. Yeah. So I am in a unique position, and it's a very rewarding position because I get to work both with city residents and Hartford Public Schools. Some of the most rewarding things about the position is bringing new technology, and I'll talk about both entities. Bringing technology, new initiatives to the city. Um, that can benefit the residents. One in particular is the citywide Wi-Fi, right? That's something that is very close to my heart, providing broadband free to residents. Although the project is not completed, we are looking for additional funding to get that finished. But just seeing the amount of residents using that technology for day to day things, right, is very rewarding for me. And for the school side, I mean, there's so many different things. You go into the school, you see the little pre-Kers and second graders and with devices in their hand, and that you played that part in helping them, get to the levels they need to go as far as learning technology. That's close to heart, right? Because I was one of those students at that time, and I didn't have all of that, and just to see that and the excitement on their faces, that's why we do what we do every day.
wonderful and very impactful, even as I'm thinking about just how much digital literacy can improve the quality of people's lives and having access. Literally, I mean, if you think about during the pandemic, what they were asking, you walk up to a door, people are like, God, text us if you want to get in here. You got
Yeah.
pre-register. You got to let us know that you've done the
Yes.
pre-screen and it's like, if you don't have access to free Wi-Fi and say you have a limited data plan on your cell phone, what does that mean? So this is absolutely an equity creating
Hmm.
initiative as well, right? Giving
Yeah.
people the access to digital technology so that they can access the other services that they need in their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. The
Hmm.
pandemic opened our eyes to a lot of things that we didn't know about, right? So that was part of the reason why we did the initiative, because we had parents calling in, right? And they were trying to access the virtual environment on hotspots, neighbors' hotspots, and things like that. And it was very sad to hear that. And then you had, grandparents and aunts and whatever who's never used technology, right? And now you're telling them to assist their children, right? So that right there alone was like eye opening for us, and just seeing the technology being utilized the way it is today. Everything is online, right? Everything is online. So, making sure we keep that infrastructure in place and up and running all the time, 24/7, 365, um, can be a challenge sometimes, but we know that that work is needed in order to keep moving, the city and the schools ahead in technology.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So important. So such important work. Even when you break it down, kind of like to just giving people the ability, right, to
Yep.
access the things that they need. Um, a lot of times I think that when we're thinking about technology, we're thinking about like some of the high level stuff, right?
Yeah,
But
it's not
you
all
know,
that.
at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it's so important for just these granular initiatives and for students to be able to learn and to be able to get homework help. I know even my kiddos, Khan Academy is such a it's like if we
Yes.
don't have internet. Also, too, when I want to get their attention at home, I do turn off the Wi-Fi. I must
Oh yeah. Yep.
but here you are with your citywide initiative, and now they can still access it.
I
I
know. I'm
appreciate
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what ties or connections do you have to Hartford? You say that Hartford is your hometown, right? So,
The
so tell
ties
us a
I
little
have.
bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell us a
So
little bit
both.
more. Mhm.
Okay, so both of my parents' birth went to Barnard Brown Elementary School. I'm not sure if that's where they met, but mostly, most of the people I know that were born and raised in Hartford, everyone's family of some sort ended up in Bellevue Square, right? Everyone had a tie to Bellevue Square. So that's where my parents met, and uh, there's two sides of the family. It's his whole entire family. I believe there was about six boys. They lived around Edgewood Street, right? And my mother and my aunt and my grandmother lived in Bellevue Square. Then they moved over to Wooster Street, and so the ties are there. And then my aunts, everyone started coming, to Hartford, and you had people on the south and people on the north, and I used to can walk down the street to my aunt's house. I went to John C. Clark, and I just want to speak a little about John C. Clark School. I went there from first to sixth grade. Um, and I don't think I would be the person I am today if I hadn't went to John C. Clark, because the teachers that I had and that taught me were part of the community, right? They lived in the community. I saw them within the community at the grocery stores, and they never let me settle for anything less. And they used to always put me um, in my place if I got out of line. And I remember my sixth grade teacher, his name was Kirkland Fain, and he used to tell me, like he used to always say, like, Charisse Snipes, I could see it now, Dr. Charisse Snipes, and I used to look at him like, I'm not gonna be no doctor, right? But I think that having them nurture me during that time played helped me become the person I am today, and they play a pivotal role in my success. And if they were here, I would thank them. I don't know if they're still around, but I would thank them. And one thing that is interesting is the principal. His name was Mr. Davis. That's Randall Davis's dad. So he and I have shared stories, and he knows all the teachers. So um, yeah, I think it was a very good atmosphere for me. And then I went to Fox Middle School. And then after that, I was, bussed out through Project Concern. So, yeah.
And where did you go when you were bussed out with Project Concern?
Well, I didn't finish at Fox. I went to a middle school called Irvin A. Robbins, and then I went to Farmington High.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. And so for people who don't know who are watching this, Randall Davis is a leader in development services for the city of Hartford. So to think that his
Mhm.
dad was your principal at one point is just
Yeah.
uh um but kudos to the administrations that are putting people in place, right? So I mean, hometown professionals, right? And
Yeah.
so it's different when
Mhm.
you know your community, when you
Mhm.
know the depth of the impact of the work that you're going to be doing because you're doing it for not like for other people, you're doing it for your friends and family and beyond, right? Your community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, and I still, my family is still here on both sides of the family. I have cousins and nieces and nephews in the school district, so I have strong family ties here. I have friends, I have people I've known that knew me for years that are still here. So yeah, I would not change. I don't think I wouldn't change anything the way I grew up for anything. There may be some little tweaks, but I think that it helped drive me to the path that I'm on now. And I'm grateful for that.
yes. And we're grateful that you decided to do the work that you do here with us. You could be anywhere doing this work. I know that my daughter, whenever we do something at home that is like,
Mhm.
for instance, I don't know, like if she gels her hair up a different kind of way. She's like, women in STEM, like I solved this, like everything is like this was not a chemistry project, but okay.
Yeah.
But to be a woman and to be a Black woman in this particular space, I'm sure that you're highly sought after, and there are lots of other places that you could be. So we appreciate that you have decided to stay here in Hartford and to do this with us. But one of the other questions that I wanted to ask you along with the Hartford ties and connections, what are some of your favorite places in the city?
Some of my favorite places in the city, besides food.
No, the food is included. People have been naming food.
Oh,
That's what I
okay.
would do.
Yeah, it depends on the type of food. I would say, for that a little bit of that country food. I would say hot pots. I found out that she's from the South too, South Carolina.
See?
Um, yeah. As far as I mean, it all depends. I like the parks, right? Keeney Park, Keeney Golf
Yeah.
Course.
Yes.
I like all of those. I drive around the city all the time. Sometimes when I'm a little frustrated, I get up, drive around the city to remind me of why I do what I do.
Wow.
So I've been all over this city as a kid, and a lot of people are like, "Well, how do you know how to get here?" Well, that's because back then we used to walk everywhere, so I know the streets. I would just say the parks, the golf courses,
A lot of people
downtown.
don't know that the city has municipal owned golf courses,
Yes.
beautiful courses,
Hmm.
Goodwin,
Yeah.
Keeney,
Mhm.
beautiful golf courses in there.
Yes, yes. Of which we support, right? People don't
Yes.
understand that when we do IT, we support the infrastructure at the parks, at the golf courses, even at the cemetery. No one knows that, right? So it's like, yeah,
What kind of
we
infrastructure does a cemetery need, Charisse?
they need
I'm just
computers
curious.
too, right? They have computers and stuff. They got to keep
Oh, the people
project
who run
running.
it got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
my brain, I was like, and beyond, literally, we're just covering. Okay.
Okay, try to recover from that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. No. Okay. So you for sure like the park system. You
Yes,
gave a nice little shout out to Hot Pots because they're
yep,
also
yep.
from the South, probably, other
Hmm.
folks who came up to the North, looking for opportunities. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
Brazil grill. It all depends on what you feel like. I mean, there's so many different ethnic foods in Hartford. It's like what do I have a taste for today? All right, I'm gonna go to Brazil
Yes.
grill. Oh, I want to go try the Portuguese place, right? So
Hmm.
there's a lot of different. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. What hospital were you born in?
St. Francis.
St. Francis. Oh, you are Hartford through and through. That was a little fact check. You passed. I love that. I love that. So, Charisse, we talked about you being history making in terms of your space, but not realizing it along the way.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
We talked a little bit about your love of Hartford, but one of the things that we're trying to do with this interview series is, of course, highlight the person behind the profession, but also kind of inspire people, right? There's somebody who is familiar with Bellevue Square. There's somebody who also loves hot pots. There's someone who also just kind of keeps their head down and is not necessarily, looking for the next rung on the ladder, but is just doing what needs to be done day to day, who might be watching this, right? What
mhm.
would you say to a person who is considering either working for the city of Hartford or who is interested in a career in information technology?
I would say for anyone who is interested in working for Hartford is if you are looking for a position where you want to give back or feel that you want to make a difference in life, then I think Hartford is the place for that, right? Because there's so many different opportunities to touch someone, right? And not only in technology, there's, I spoke with students at UConn last year who were computer science majors, right? And they were asking me different things about Hartford. And once I talked about all the different things that they can do, they had an interest in wanting to do that type of work that can be impactful to residents. So, um, if you're ready to give back and you want to work for an organization that is um, I think Hartford is rewarding. The city of Hartford is rewarding and supportive of things that you want to do. Then Hartford is the place for you. The city of Hartford is the place for you. As far as technology, I love technology. Anyone that has a love for technology, fulfill that dream. Is so rewarding. You don't only have to do. There's so many different things that you can do in technology. You can build apps. You can, do esports, play games, build video games, which is huge right now. But there's also things that you can do where you can touch, citizens in a way that can help improve their lives. It could be anything from training people who know nothing about technology, who who um, who have had some impact in their life of violence or something, right? Where you can help them focus on something else besides the tragedies they may have faced. Technology can do that, right? So give back any way you can. And in the end, you will see how rewarding it is and make you feel good about yourself. And if you want to make this world better, this is the place to start.
I love that. So many
Hmm.
intrinsic rewards to giving back,
Yeah.
um, into being an employee in your city. And there's a lot
Yeah.
that you can give to other people, and also a lot that you can gain for yourself from, relationships with other people. Obviously, gonna get your check. You might get your pension, your health benefits. But
Yeah.
even beyond that, I will also say, Charisse, just in closing, that it's a joy to work with you.
Thank you.
You and I don't get to cross our paths often, but for me to know that I've been able to have the baked goods of the first Black woman chief information officer for the city of Hartford. Wow. People don't know this, but Charisse can throw down, right? Particularly around the baked goods. And she is so generous in terms of like how she supports her team, how she treats people, how she shares her gifts with other people. And so we are really just honored to have the opportunity to speak with you today and to be able to highlight you and lift you up in honor of Black History Month. So thank you so
Thank
much for being with us this afternoon.
thank you for having me. It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Mhm.
Awesome.